Hey guys, it's Haley. Just ignore what I look like right now because I just got back from the gym. Anyway, so I am gonna do a video talking about kind of my growing up life, I guess, with my dad, and then losing my dad, um, and then how that has affected me today. So anyway, he got in a car wreck and he hurt his knee really bad and needed a knee replacement. And he also had a herniated disc in his neck. I don't know how close those two incidents really were, but I do know that they did happen, and he was prescribed pain medication. Kind of have an addictive gene, I guess. So him taking those pain medications just was not good at all. He wanted more and more, and his doctor was giving him more and more because he was in pain, but eventually he didn't need it for the pain anymore. He needed it to be okay. Started snorting Oxycontin, and that was when I was probably 10-ish. And I just remember I didn't know, obviously, because I was so young and I didn't even know what that stuff was. I just remember he was always sleeping at, like, all my birthday parties. He was always, like, red eyes, always really just out of it. And you'd be talking to him and he would just fall asleep. He never wanted to do anything anymore. He quit his union job. It was just not good. But obviously that was my dad, and I just thought that was what was supposed to happen. 8th grade is probably when I really started to figure out what was going on, because people in school started to talk. I started learning more and more about drugs and side effects and this and this. And once I started to understand, me and my mom finally left. So that made me so mad at him, because I never would have ever guessed that my dad would be like that, and all of a sudden he's this down in the dumps guy that doesn't even want to go out. He's relying on pills, he's making stupid decisions, he's angry, just everything, and he wouldn't even be there for me anymore, and that wasn't like him. So it really, really, really hit me hard. He would go missing for weeks at a time, not call back, not be home. I would check up on him all the time, and it just really affected me because I'm the younger sibling. So my older sister is obviously older. She's 7 years older, so she knew how to handle it more. She had kids of her own that she had to worry about, and I was just, my dad's life was consuming my mind so much that I had anxiety. I was missing school, just everything. I prepared myself my whole life for my dad to die, pretty much. Obviously, you could tell he was getting into more hard drugs, and I knew he was doing heroin. Just how he acted, he wasn't the same guy anymore. But if I would pick him up right when he got up, it was like he was my old dad again. Anyways, this is like 10 years that has been going on with all of this. And finally, the beginning of 2017, I have a voicemail from him saying how it's going to be better. He's going to try really hard. He's actually going to come when he tells us he's going to come, and he's not going to ignore us. He said he was going to come more, and he did. He came around more. He was more himself than I've seen him in years. And you could tell he was really, really trying to be sober around us. Last memory with my dad actually is my nephew's birthday party. It was in May, and my dad was just so happy. We were all happy, and we were running around having water balloon fights, and it was just so fun. And he was himself, and he was laughing, and I haven't seen my dad laugh in forever. And that was my last memory of my dad, and it is probably the best memory I have. I was at Woodward Camp, which is just a camp I was coaching at in Pennsylvania, and he sent me $100 because he wanted me to be able to buy stuff for myself. Woodward shirt, got it on, by the way. Shout out to Woodward, it's amazing. Anyway, so he sent me $100, and I was just so surprised because usually I'm the one giving my dad money, or I'm the one buying my dad food or filling up his gas tank, and he sent me money, and that was just like, I was shocked. He called me and I was like, thank you, Dad, but I don't really have time right now because I'm coaching and there's no service here, and thank you so much, I love you, and kind of ended it there. And that was the last time I talked to my dad. That was the first week of June. He called me a couple times after that, and of course I was with my friends, and I was like, you know what, I'll get to it. He left me voicemails, hey, call me back, and I was like, I'll get to it, because he did that to me, and honestly, like, I always held a grudge. Even though I love him with all my heart, I always held a grudge on what he put me through. So he kept calling, and I just didn't get to it. Then Father's Day, 2017, I had to take my mom to the airport because she was going to Aruba. So I was up until like 6 a.m. And so I went to bed. It was a Sunday, and I woke up at 3 p.m. and I had no missed calls from my dad. And I was like, wow, that's very, very strange. It was June 18th, 2017. He didn't call us, and that's very weird, especially because he had a reason to. It was Father's Day. So I called him a couple times, and I called my sister, hey, have you heard from Dad? And she was like, no, but this is kind of normal. I mean, he might just be having a bad day. And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to go check on him. And I texted 2 of my friends, I believe, and I was like, my dad's dead. I know it. I just had this gut feeling that something was wrong. And I got in the car and I drove to his house, and his car was there, and I peeked in and his phone was still in there, and I was like, that's kind of weird, his phone's in there. Maybe he was just tired and went to bed. So I go to unlock the door, and it was already unlocked, which is just like crazy because being a drug addict, he always had knives by his couch, and he always locked his door because he probably owed people money. I'm guessing that's just how it was. So it was unlocked, and I walk in and I'm yelling, Dad, Dad, I hear nothing. I go upstairs, I'm looking around, and I had my flashlight on because he didn't have any electricity. So I had my flashlight on, and I'm like so freaked out, I'm just gonna find him laying there. Like, I just had that feeling, but I didn't find anything. I went upstairs, I went downstairs, it was 4 floors, so I went everywhere besides one place. So I go out in my car, I start my car, and I start driving away, and just something brought me back to the house. For some reason, I was like, no, I need to go in there. But then in my mind, I'm like, I literally was just in there. Why? Why do I have to go in there? But I could not drive away. So I turned around, and I pulled back in, and I went in there again. I looked, and I was like, nothing. I yelled his name, nothing. So I go to walk out the door, and I don't know what it was, but something just took me back in. And so I start walking down the stairs to the basement, and so in our basement there was like a basement section, and then there was just this little laundry room off to the side. It was very small. And so I'm walking down the stairs, and I was about to go into the laundry room, and my sister calls me, and I'm like, hey, and right when I open the door, I see my dad, and he was laying there. I only see his feet because he was under a table, and my sister was like, hey, and I was like, oh my God, and I started screaming bloody murder. I was like, Dad's dead, Dad's dead, Dad's dead, and I just remember her voice like, what, and she hung up, and that was that, and I'm screaming, I run over, and his arms were blue, and I just knew that was it. So I ran outside, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs because I'm by myself, and I go over to my next door neighbor, which was my neighbor for forever, which is actually my neighbor now too. And I went over there, and I'm screaming, I'm crying, people are running out of their houses because they don't know what's going on, and this guy called 911, and he's like, I don't know what happened, but here's the phone, do you need to talk to 911? And I was like, my dad's dead, like, I'm hyperventilating, I just saw something terrifying, and I just didn't know what to do. And my neighbor got my mom on the phone, and my mom was in Aruba, so the fact that my neighbor from my dad's house is calling her is very, very weird because I barely ever went to my dad's house. So I told her, Dad's dead. I just found Dad dead. Like, I gotta go, but Dad's dead. I gotta talk to 911. So they told me to go back down there to make sure he was dead. So I went down there and I just knew. And there was actually a volunteer firefighter that lived across the street, and he went down there too, and he was like, you can step away. I'll talk to 911 from here. And as I'm running out the door, my sister runs in, and she went down there, and I'm just outside about to throw up. I just didn't know what to do. I started thinking I didn't get to say goodbye, what even happened, and it was just the craziest, most terrifying day of my whole life. So we didn't know what happened exactly. He had a generator in the basement because he had no electricity. And when I walked downstairs, that door was closed to the little laundry room. And that's where he had the generator, in the little laundry room. And when we found him, it was on. And then I also found him laying in gas, and the gas can was spilled out of his hand. I think he was on his hands and knees filling up the generator with gas when that door was closed, and just because no gas was getting out of the room, he just fell asleep and never woke up. So on his death certificate, it says carbon monoxide poisoning. He also had a crack on his head, so they said he could have fallen and hit his head as well, and that could have been a factor. They didn't know if he was on drugs or not at the time, because when I found him, they think he was already gone for more than 24 hours. So by the time I found him, his whole body was just consumed of gas. They said 98% gas came back on his test. I didn't really understand it because when I walked in and I found him, his head was under a table and all I saw were his feet. And I'm like, if he fell, how did he get under a table? That doesn't make sense. The table's short. It's not like he could fall under it. So I just had so many questions, and I still do, but I just try not to think about it. They think he was down there for a couple days, so his body was rotting. I just did not know what to do. My mom was in a different country and couldn't get a flight home for like another 24 to 48 hours. And we don't know if he was high when he was filling up the gas, because my dad was a construction worker for years. He always told me, do not turn on a car while it's in the garage. Like, he knew the circumstances of being around that stuff. So I'm not sure if he was high. We don't know if it could have been a suicide thing. For the sake of us, we are just gonna say it was carbon monoxide poisoning and that he went peacefully. He just fell asleep and never woke up. I was really, really sad for a really long time. I didn't know what to do because my dad called me all the time when he was in the right state, obviously, and told me I was beautiful. He told me I will always be his girl, and I make him so, so, so proud. And it was just crazy knowing I didn't have that anymore, and I never got a chance to say goodbye. I never got a chance to try to get him into rehab. I never got the chance to do a lot of things that I wish I did, and I ignored his last calls, which I know it's not my fault, but it still really, really sucks. So for a long time, I was done. I was sad. I had no motivation to do anything. I missed like 3 weeks of work. I was traumatized. I didn't know what to do. I almost wished that he could call me with his bullcrap excuses, and just, I didn't care as long as I could talk to my dad. And that was Father's Day, so that's a really hard day, but they actually presumed his death date the day before, which is the 17th, because they knew he was at least gone for over 24 hours. Messed up part, but a big messed up part is that me and my sister found money and we were going to use it for the funeral. So he just left it in his car console, and the next day we came and it was gone. Someone stole his money. So someone obviously knew he wasn't there, or something happened because they went and they took his money out of the console. It could have been someone he owed money to. It could have been a lot of things we don't know, but it just like really broke my heart to know that someone just stole money from someone that passed away, and their kids could have used that money to pay for this expensive funeral that we were not ready for. My sister just bought a house. I was in school. It's not like I had a crazy amount of money. And the first funeral we mapped out was $7,000, and we're like, what the heck? We didn't know. And my dad's best friend growing up actually bought his tombstone, and we got so many donations at the funeral that the whole thing was paid for. And I just couldn't thank everyone enough that we didn't have to stress over money when we were already stressing about losing our father. At the funeral, I don't remember a lot because I was really, really out of it. I was tired. I didn't sleep all week. I was sad. I just was not there mentally at all. I do remember a couple people that were there, and the stories I heard about my dad growing up just made me feel so much better. They're like, he was the greatest man I've ever met. He was an amazing football player. He broke records. He did this, and it just made me feel so good that those people remembered him how he used to be. And that's why he didn't see his family. He didn't see his dad. He didn't see his brothers. He didn't see anyone in those last couple years of his life, because he wanted them to remember him for who he used to be. So those were all the memories those people had, and it just warmed my heart to know that. So my last memory of my dad was playing water balloons and running and laughing and trying to get him, and we were ganging up on my nephews, and it was just so fun. And later that night he texted me and said, "You were the hit of the party. I had so much fun." And then he said, "You will always be my baby boy." And I was like, "What? I'll always be your baby boy?" And he called me laughing. He was like, "Oh my God, I meant girl." And he was laughing so hard he couldn't even breathe. And I will never forget his goofy laugh. Like, he was cracking up because he called me a baby boy. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And he was fine. He doesn't know how to work a phone. And that just made me laugh so hard. We were cracking up over that for 15 minutes. And that is what I will remember from my dad, is those fun memories of him teaching me to play softball, him teaching me to ride a bike, just everything. That's what I'll remember about my dad. And I was really, really at a low point when my dad passed away, and I was just like, why would he do this to us? I was sad, I was mad, I was hurt, I didn't want to work, I didn't want to eat, I didn't want to sleep, I lost a lot of weight, and then I gained a lot of weight. I started eating a lot, and I didn't move, I laid down, I took a bunch of naps, and I probably did that for a year. And I didn't really hang out with many people anymore, maybe a few. I just wasn't myself anymore. I was sad, always sad. I cried more than I've ever cried in my life. It was just not a good time for me. And then 2018, so a year and a half later, which was actually like a month ago, just something clicked in me, and I was like, my dad would be so pissed off if he knew that I was sitting here crying and that I was sitting here just wasting my life away doing nothing. So I started eating healthy. I started going to the gym. I just have seen this brighter side of myself. I'm so motivated, And I have never felt this good before. And I never thought I would feel this good and truly smile again. And I've lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks, and I just did a complete 180. And it was just because I knew I cannot let something like that take me away. Because my dad was gone, but I will always have my dad's memory. I will always be able to visit his grave. I have voicemails from him. I have texts from him. And I have people that loved him just as much as I did. So I know he would be really mad at me if he knew he was doing that to me. So I turned my life around, and now I'm doing great. And I still miss my dad every day, and I think about him every single day. But just know, if you are ever struggling, you guys could reach out to me. I know this was really, really long, but so many people ask me, like, what happened to your dad? And even though it's been a year and a half, people still ask me, what happened? Or did he overdose? Or what did he do? And so this kind of explains it, but we still don't 100% know. But it just sucks. But it's been such an eye-opener, and I'm so much stronger because of it. And I make sure I always tell my loved ones and my friends that I love them. And I just pray no one has to ever go through this. Some days I have weird dreams about what I saw, and that definitely gets me down. But now I know what makes me happy, and I know how to pick myself back up again. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that supported me, and thank you for watching if you've made it this far, because it was kind of long. So thank you.